Hi and welcome to BeatleDave's Beatles channel. Today's video, well, it's a very special one if you like the Rutles, so please settle back and come and join me. It's looking good. Ouch! So hello again and welcome to BeatleDave's Beatles channel today. Hope I find all you fab Beatles people doing really well out there, and thank you so much for being here on the channel. So yes, today's video and also a part 2 which will be available almost simultaneously with this one. It's a very special interview with Admiral John Halsey, alias Barry Wom, the noisy one from the Rutles. And it's incredible the absolute legacy of work that this man has achieved through the years, and the legacy still continues with a brand new CD called Songs of the Donkey Shed, with links to the CD and signed merch, etc., which will be available in the description of these two videos. So before we switch to the interview, I'd just like to say a really big thank you to Phil Jackson for reaching out to me for a digital copy of the album and also making all this happen, and of course John himself for being a really very warm, funny and fantastic genuine individual. So let's cut straight to part 1 of this interview with Admiral John Halsey, so please come and join us. So yes, today on BeatleDave's Beatles channel, I'd like to say a very big and warm welcome to Admiral John Halsey. How the devil are you, sir?
Devilishly well, thank you. For somebody of my age, no complaints. Only all the usual things that middle-aged people get.
I can definitely sympathise with you there, John. So actually, before we get to the news of your most recent CD, Songs of the Donkey Shed, John, I just wanted to go back a little bit and first ask you, how did you become interested in music and also playing the drums, and who were your influences?
Oh, it all started off when I was very young, really. I mean, in the house where I live with my parents and 2 sisters, we always had the radio on, and somehow I always enjoyed the theme tune to radio shows more than I did the radio show. And I can still remember all the theme tunes of really old BBC sitcoms that were on the radio, and The Archers and Mrs. Dale's Diary and things that it was the music that stuck in my mind. I can remember all the tunes and I can remember most of the words of all those. Raise a Laugh and Educating Archie and Take It From Here and all those things. They were all radio shows, so that's always stuck in my mind. And then getting into playing drums, I was in a band with 2 friends of mine, but I was the bass player, but I never ever had a bass because I didn't have any money. But I had the catalogue. I had the Hofner catalogue and the Futurama catalogue. And I used to turn up at rehearsals with the catalogue. Hello, boys. What are we playing today? I'll open it at the Hofner violin bass page. And eventually, my mum bought me some drums, although the band I was in did already have a drummer. So it's a bit like the Rutles, as Neil once said, when Ricky and I were there. The Rutles is really a rhythm guitarist and 2 drummers, and I was doing that 60 years ago. I was in a band with 2 drummers and a rhythm guitarist.
And who were your influences?
Oh, my influences, yeah, I suppose my influences were, well, I used to play along with records. That's how I learned to play. I was self-taught. Put a record on, Jerry Lee Lewis or Gene Vincent or somebody of that era, Ricky Nelson or the Everly Brothers, and play along with the record and try and copy the drum, what the drummers were doing. So I had some very good teachers, really, all those sort of top American session guys from the late 1950s and early 60s, pre-Beatles. People like Earl Palmer, who was playing with Ricky Nelson and playing with Little Richard as well, and who I once met when I was in America with Roy Harper. We did some gigs with Maria Muldaur, and Earl Palmer was playing drums with her. He's a visionary. He was a great player. He worked with Little Richard, and he worked with Frank Sinatra. He worked with absolutely everybody. He was an amazing player. So he was a hero of mine, and many others, and lots of my other heroes have all been jazz drummers, and other session players like Jim Gordon, loads of people, Jimmy Carstein, Jim Keltner, just all really great players who I listen to and I think, wow, I wish I could do it like that. But there you go.
So in the 1960s, John, you actually worked with an R&B band called Felder's Orioles, who actually released some singles on the Piccadilly label. And there was also a band called Timebox. Do you actually have many recollections from those days?
Many recollections. Yeah, when I first heard Ray Charles singing on an album called Ray Charles in Person, that was, for me, was the light bulb moment. I can't say moment at the moment. That was, for me, was the light bulb moment. It just went bing. What is this? That is the greatest thing I've ever heard. That's what I want to do. And the nearest thing I could get to doing anything like that was to go and hear people at the Flamingo Club. Zoot Money, Georgie Fame, Chris Farlow, Ronnie Jones, all those people, just really good singers. And they were doing all that sort of stuff that people who were in the know, like American servicemen were over here, black American servicemen were over here, all frequented this club, and it was them they were trying to entertain. And it was just great. They were great bands. And it was, for me, that was the great music. James Brown, Otis Redding, Sam and Dave. That's not a fish, by the way. It's not Salmon Dave. It's Sam and Dave. And yeah, it's a bit like Nicola Sturgeon, and she's not a fish either. Yeah, and that they were my main influences. And eventually I joined a band that was called Felder's Orioles with a friend of mine, Paul, who played guitar. And it was a pretty good little band. We were sort of semi-pro. And eventually we got an organ of some sort. I think it was a Vox Continental. And then a Hammond organ, which was the Rolls Royce of organs. That's the sound we wanted. And we already had a sax player, Pete Newman, who'd been around for years. He was older than the rest of us. And Pete had played with the Tornadoes and Johnny Kidd and the Pirates and Screaming Lord Sutch and all those really, really early rock and roll people. Played at the Blue Eyes, the coffee bar in Soho, where rock and roll was attributed to it being started with Tommy Steele and Cliff Richard and the Shadows and people like that. And eventually another guy joined, Rod Hinkstone, who played baritone sax. So then we had the lineup that we wanted, and we started doing the gigs that we wanted to do, which was the Flamingo and the Ram Jam Club, the Manor House, Klutz Clique, all those London venues that were hot on that style of music. Not really the music for the general public. The general public were going for the Liverpool sound, which, as much as I appreciated it and thought how good it was, so this soul music just swept me along. I absolutely loved it. And then when that band broke up, we were together for about 3 years, and we decided to all turn pro. and jack our day jobs in and do it for a living. So that didn't last long. Everybody jacked their jobs in, and we did it as a professional setup, and it didn't last very long after that. We couldn't earn enough money. It was too tough. But Paul and I decided to stick it out and see if we could make a hit of it, sort of playing professionally. And I joined a band called Timebox that later became Patto. And they were doing Tamil and Motown stuff and all that sort of thing. They'd just got a singer, Mike Patto, and they had vibes player, Ollie Halsall, who was only about 17 when I joined, and a guitarist, Kevin Fogarty, Chris Holmes on organ, and Clive Griffiths on bass. And eventually it whittled down, and Ollie started playing guitar. And within a couple of years of him playing guitar, every time we played anywhere, the place was full of guitarists in awe of Ollie's prowess as a guitar player. He was remarkable, a remarkable talent on guitar. I've never heard anybody play like him. He's one of the few people I've worked with who I would describe as a genius. He had a touch of genius about him.
Yeah.
And we went on from there, and we made some albums, and with Vertigo, that's right, because our manager, who was a Cockney, used to call it Vertigo. But we recorded some albums with Vertigo, and then we eventually got on the Island label. But by that time we'd been together for 6 years. We sort of lost our way a little bit. Nothing we did made us any sensible amount of money. And after 6 years, traveling around the back of a van all over the world, after 6 years, we ended up with what we started off with, which was nothing. And so that band eventually split up and all went its own way as well. And that was the end of the Pattos. It was then find something else to do.
John, your musical CV is just quite incredible. But, the one that really sticks out for me is when you worked on the Lou Reed album Transformer in 1972. So actually, how did that actually come about?
I had met Mick Ronson. He was one of the guitarists who turned up at the Marquee to see Ollie play. And I had met him. And I never ever turned work down. If ever the phone rang and I wasn't doing anything, I would go out and do it, whatever it was. And I was doing a really dodgy pub gig, and it was in Ponders End in North London, not the most salubrious of establishments. It was a really nasty pub. And so I went off and did that gig, and I got my money, and I drove home. And my wife Elaine was waiting up, which was unusual because we had 2 young children. And if I got in late from working, then she would automatically be in bed. And she said, "Guess who's phoned you?" No, I can't do that. David Bowie. I said, "Oh, come on, David Bowie. I don't know David Bowie." She said, "Well, I'm sure it was him." I said, "No, it's probably somebody mucking about saying this is David Bowie." I said, I don't know him. Anyway, he said he's going to phone you back. So I gave him the benefit of the doubt. I didn't go out and waited by the phone for 3 weeks. And he did phone me back eventually and said he wanted me to come and do this Lou Reed. So do some tracks with Lou Reed. I didn't do the whole album. I did about half a dozen tracks, I think. And that was it. But they were terrifying sessions. I'd only ever done sessions with my own bands. Whatever band I was in, we did sessions, obviously. And this was a session that was going to be paid for by somebody else who was booking me to go and play the drums for him. It was all quite scary. And when I got there, it was even more scary. There's David Bowie and his missus shod from head to foot in sequins and up in the control room, and Mick Ronson and Klaus Vorman playing bass, who was very poker-faced, and I don't think he quite approved of me. I think he thought there should be some sort of celebrity drummer there. Anyway, we cut these tracks, and everybody seemed happy with them. I'd like to have done them all again a couple of years later, once I knew a little bit more about what I was doing on sessions. And we cut these tracks, and everybody seemed happy. I got my £18, whatever it was, for 2 sessions, 6 hours, and went home. And it's been going on for years. This what do they call it? Perfect Day, and some of the other songs, Satellite of Love, and some of the other songs, they've been going on for years, and they still get played. They still earn me some PPL royalties and things like that. Yeah, an amazingly successful album. I think it must have sold millions. I think I deserve a gold album at least. There's nothing ever been mentioned, but it sold millions as a vinyl album and as a cassette tape. And now, of course, it's downloaded, and it's been all through the CD craze and all that, which I've only just started on, by the way.
Yeah.
The CD craze. I've only just caught up with that. Just got rid of wax cylinders.
Now, moving on to your work with the band Fatso and also the Rutland Weekend television series, was this actually the first time that you met and worked with Neil Innes and also Eric Idle?
No. I'd worked with Neil from 1973 onwards with Grimm's, which was like a touring show with the scaffold in it, and various musicians, Andy Roberts, Zoot Money, Neil Innes, Viv Stanshall was in it at one time, and there were poets, Brian Patton, who just passed away last week, and obviously Roger McGough, and Adrian Henry was in it at one time. And there were other musicians, Dave Richards, John Meganson, who was a piano player, or pianist, I suppose. And it was just an amazing show. It was comedy sketches and little skits and bits of scaffold and bits of Monty Python and bits of, not Monty Python, they weren't in it, Bonzo Dog, songs like that. And it was a complete show. We did, I think I did about 3 tours with them. They put a show together, and I got slowly involved with it because I was always a bit of a one for singing silly songs and things like that, which I still am. And that was when I met Neil, and Neil and I became firm friends, to the tune of sort of doing some gigs together. A few things that he did. We once went away on holiday together to the Canary Islands to write a sitcom. It didn't get very far. And a few things. And we used to go out and play golf when we had spare time. And I did some tours with him. And eventually, Neil was asked by Eric Idle to go in with him and do the Rutland Weekend television series. And Neil had already started working with this band that I'd joined called Fatso, with a couple of old schoolmates of mine, Brian Hodson and Peter Rettig, his brother Roger Rettig, and Billy Bremner, who was in Rockpile and different things. And we were going out as Neil Innes and Fatso, doing gigs. One of our strongholds was the Nashville Rooms in London, and we used to do college gigs and bits and pieces. And we had our own van. We didn't have a roadie. We used to drive ourselves and hump all our gear around and set it up and split the money between us and go home, And that was how Fatso worked. And then Neil suggested that we went and did the music for the Rutland Weekend television series. And we ended up doing both series that were made. We did all the music for it. and we did some walk-on parts as well when they were short of extras, which was what Rutland Weekend Television was meant to be all about. It was all meant to be about Rutland being the smallest county in Britain. It meant to be a little radio, a little TV show, a little TV station who didn't have much money, and the weatherman would also introduce a variety show and things like that. And
I see. Yeah,
that was how it was done. And Neil used to write songs, and he used to record sort of one song a week. And one week he wrote what he considered to be a Beatles song called "I Must Be in Love," and I was asked to go and do the filming as the Ringo character, and there was Eric and Neil and another guy called David Batley who was in the series. He was an actor, and then Eric took it across to America, and it was shown on Saturday Night Live, and it became an overnight instant hit, and people said, "We want more of the Rutles." And so the guy who made Saturday Night Live, I can't remember his name now, it's not like me to forget a name, I can't remember his name. He said to Eric, let's make a film, a rockumentary, the first one. Let's make a film of the rise to fame of the Rutles, which of course parallels the rise to fame of the Beatles. It's the same story.
Right, so that's actually the halfway point of this interview with John Halsey, and actually this is a good time for them fabulous old shout-outs. So it's a great big Beatle Dave hello to Retro Rave, George Price, Nick Elias, Colin Wilson, Dennis Ward, 750 Drums, Captain Gorilla, Jesse Russell, how you doing Jesse, Matt Willow, Takubu, Manny, Lisa Stillwagon, Indiana, George the Beatle, Miss Bryant, Requiem, DJ Reed, Charles Duncan, Percy Cabello, how you doing Percy, 47169, Elliot Ween from New York, and Brian Kelly Music. So that's a great big Beatle Dave thank you to all you fab Beatle people, and thanks for your continued support. And obviously if you want a shout out, it's very simple. All you got to do is make a comment on one of my videos and I'll call out your name. It's as simple as that. So right, this is part 1 of the interview, which is coming to the end, and part 2 should be available straight away now on this very channel. So we'll see you again in a few moments.
BeatleDave's